Hello and welcome to the L15weekly podcast, giving you the latest news, views and opinions from the football world. On episode 8 of the L15weekly podcast, we are joined by Andy Turner from the Coventry Telegraph, where we're going to be talking all things Coventry City. We also talk Premier League, Championship, FA Cup, and also we give you your Heroes of the Week along with all the latest MLS action. So make sure you stick around for this one, it's going to be a great one. So let's get into it. On this week's episode, I am joined by Andy Turner from the Coventry Telegraph. Andy, how are you?
Yeah, fine, thank you.
So the first question I've got to ask you, Andy, you're in first place in League One, you're 2 points off second place, and you're 5 points off third place. Has this season's come as a surprise to you?
Good question. I guess you go into every season. There's always a bit of an unknown, this season was no different really because there was a big overhaul of players in the summer, as there has been in recent years, and you never know how quickly those players will gel, and how quickly the manager can get everybody sort of pull in the right direction. But it soon became evident, the brand of football that Mark Robins, wants to play and is playing. Everything sort of clicked into place quite quickly, really. Yeah. There were a few blips in the way, but what they've done is they've found a level of consistency which they've previously failed to find. I mean, I've been covering the club for 21 years, and in all that time they've struggled to find consistency. They've had patches in seasons, but they've never sort of had such a good run as they've had this season. And I think the secret is, that sticking to the principles, playing fantastic football, passing football out from the back, and having the technically gifted players at his disposal to do that. And long may that continue. I mean, I keep waiting for a blip, because it's sort of almost ingrained in my psyche to expect one, given what I've seen over the last 20 odd years. But they're doing really well, and they're sort of, with 11 games to go, they're really sort of digging in and determined to really achieve something special this season.
Yeah, and as you said about the consistency lacking over recent years, but you've not lost in the league since December the 14th, 2-1 against Shrewsbury. Why have you gone on this unbeaten streak? What's the secret really?
I think it's just the fact that they've got such good players. I mean, he's got a fantastic squad, and he's got a squad. He's got a really strong bench, and he went through a period where we almost didn't know what his sort of best side was. I mean, the sort of back three goalkeeper picked itself, the wing backs picked themselves, and the two central midfielders have sort of settled into being regular starters. But the front two or three plays a box midfield, and the two forward-thinking midfielders behind the lone striker have been interchangeable, and they've got four attacking midfielders that are all vying for those two spots, and they were rotated for a time, but now Callum O'Hare, who's on loan from Aston Villa, and Jamie Allen, who they bought from Burton Albion last season, they've sort of emerged really as the sort of the standout two that are sort of in possession of the shirt, and they've just found that level of consistency and confidence. I think it's a confidence thing as well. I think they've got this determination and firm belief that they are a good side and that they can get promoted this season. And they're all buying into that. They're all pulling in the right direction and working for each other. And they've just got that sort of a really special bond between. I guess dressing rooms are quite complex places at times, and you can get all sorts of different characters. But this current crop, there doesn't seem to be a bad apple among them. Even the ones that aren't getting a game that were part of a prominent part of the team last season are still, urging everybody on and fully behind their teammates. And I think they've just got something special going. They've got that unity, and that's sort of producing results.
And you've been sharing your stadium, St Andrews, with Birmingham. When that was announced, how was that perceived amongst the fans of Coventry City?
Well, obviously, it didn't go down very well at all, and it's let's make no bones about it. It split the fan base. I mean, the club were they had an average gate of around 12,000 at the Ricoh Arena last season. and that has been hard. So there's an average of around 6,000 going to St Andrews. Numbers are picking up in recent weeks because, obviously now they're really sort of pushing for an automatic promotion place, whereas I guess at the start of the season, everybody thought, or the target really was the playoffs as a minimum.
Yeah.
But the longer the season's gone on, and the closer it looks like, that it's really in their hands now to get automatic promotion if they want it. Then obviously the excitement's building, and at the weekend, helped by the fact that Sunderland brought over 3,000 fans. The gate went over 10,000 for the first time. So fans are coming back, as the season's gone on.
Yeah.
But there's still, you can't hide away from the fact that were they back at the Ricoh Arena right now, they'd be pulling in crowds, of between 15 and 18,000, on home soil, and you can't get away from that, and that's a huge chunk of revenue that the club are missing out on, and that's why they're working as hard as they can, I'm sure, behind the scenes to make sure that they are back at the Ricoh and back in the city of Coventry for next season.
And, there's been a lot of key players for Coventry this year. Matt Godden's your top scorer at the moment. You've already mentioned Callum O'Hare. But if you had to pick sort of a player of the season now, who would you choose as sort of your star man?
Well, like you say, there are a number of contenders. Not least Matty Godden for his goals, and Callum O'Hare for his sort of fantastic trickery and directness with the ball at his feet. He really he's a player that really excites the fans. The back three have been immense, certainly in the last couple of months. The goalkeeper's been fantastic. There are probably two standout players for me at the moment, but only sort of edging it really.
Yeah.
And that would be Liam Walsh in the heart of midfield. He's on loan from Bristol City.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. Carl McFadden calls him Messi, and he's such a technically gifted player. He just got a lot. He started out at Everton, had a big injury, and ended up at Bristol City. Still a big club, of course, Bristol City, but he's really made a name for himself here at Coventry and shown that he could easily play Championship level. Yeah. And many people are convinced that he'll be a Premier League player, in the not too distant future. So he's been outstanding. He's just got everything to his game, box to box. He can tackle. He's so skillful. Pick a pass. He's a lovely player, and he can score goals as well. He's a lovely player to watch. He really is. A great character. And the other one, really, he's been a bit of a slow burner this season. Yeah. Had a difficult start. It's Fanketi Dabo. He's right back stroke when he plays wing back. Yeah. He started as right back. He's a lad that they got from Chelsea. He's been playing in Dutch football for a couple of years. Yeah. But he's been superb, absolutely superb. He scored 2 own goals early in the season, was sent off as well in another game, and it took him a little bit of time to sort of settle back into the English game, but he's absolutely flying now, and he's one of their key outlets down the right flank. He's so good going forward. He can defend as well, and he proved really popular with the fans. Yeah.
And if you're top of the league, obviously, it looks at the moment that you look to be going up. If you were to go up, do you think this team can compete in the Championship?
Well, if they did go up, you have to factor in that they've currently got 3 loan players who are key players in the side. So Callum O'Hare, Liam Walsh, and Sam Callum, who of course Coventry sold to Norwich City in the January window and then loaned back. So you take 3 players out of the team straight away. And they're big players, big holes to fill. The recruitment would have to be right. And Coventry played Birmingham City in the FA Cup recently. And went toe to toe with them, competed every step of the way, and should have won both games. Had chances, more than enough chances to, and sort of passed those up. But the fact that they competed so well with the Championship side sort of will give I'm sure the manager and the fans' confidence that they can compete at the next level. But it all depends on recruitment. There will need to be changes. They will need to add quite a bit more quality. You could argue that might have to invest in another centre half, possibly another striker. And it's a question of do they keep hold of the likes of Matty Godden? Will he get snapped up by somebody else? By a higher placed championship club? And so there are a lot of sort of variables really going into the summer. But this side, I mean, if you was to say, this side that they've currently got was going to play next season, then I think they could certainly hold their own. But that's not going to happen in terms of the personnel, because as I said before, at least 3 of those players are going to be leaving.
Okay, well, thank you very much for coming on the podcast, Andy.
You're welcome.
So let's get straight into some Premier League action here on the L15 Weekly podcast, and we go back to the Norwich versus Leicester game from last Friday night, so a week ago when you were listening to this, where Norwich pulled off one of the shock results of the season, and they went and beat Leicester 1-0. So it's an interesting game really from both perspectives, because obviously Norwich, bottom of the league, you wouldn't expect them to get anything at third place Leicester, would you? Now, it was a very interesting game with 19 total shots for Leicester, where 11 went to Norwich, 13 chances created for Leicester and 8 for Norwich. Jamal Lewis got the goal. That is his first Premier League goal. It was a very good performance from Norwich in the end. Andrzej Duda doing some good work for me. He was my man of the match. He played 87 minutes, got 3 total shots, 25 accurate passes and an 89% pass success rate with 2 chances created and a 7.5 overall rating. I mean, Jamal Lewis was the hero with the goal, but I think Andrzej Duda really put in the work in the midfield, and he's proven to be a reasonable signing. He's come from Hertha Berlin on loan, so very good work from Andrzej Duda. Leicester, on the other hand, they looked just without any flair really. There's no Jamie Vardy in that side at all. He was injured for that game. And Leicester, they haven't won in 5 games. Let's have a look at their recent run of form, because it hasn't been a good one. They've lost 1-0 to Norwich, 1-0 to Man City, drawn 0-0 with Wolves, 2-2 with Chelsea, and lost 2-1 in the Carabao Cup semi-final with Aston Villa. So it wasn't a very good performance from Leicester, and it's not one that they'll be proud of, and one they'll want to sort of push on from and leave behind. We have another 5 games to cover for you, so we went over that one at Norwich, so we're going to go over Bournemouth and Chelsea. And that was a very, very strange game really, with Bournemouth picking up a point. They drew 2-2 with Chelsea. Bournemouth in a bit of a pickle at the moment in the relegation scrap. They're in the relegation zone, but only by goal difference, only one less goal. But so Bournemouth 2-2 with Chelsea. Alonso got the first goal. It was a good goal from Alonso. Lerma equalised with Josh King scoring 3 minutes later to take Bournemouth into the lead, and then Alonso went and scored in the 85th minute. So it's good work from Marcus Alonso. He was my man of the match. He created the most chances in the match with 4. He scored 2 goals, got 7 total shots off, 50 accurate passes, 79% pass accuracy, and 9.2 player rating. It was really, really good from Marcus Alonso. It was a very good performance overall by Bournemouth. They were keeping Chelsea at bay really. Chelsea dominating the game with 73% possession, but they really did limit Chelsea to chances. And Eddie Howe will be pleased with a bit of a reaction from that game. They haven't won since the Villa game. They haven't won in 3. They haven't won in 3 now, but they were pretty decent in that game. They'll look to carry on, maybe go and get a win over league leaders Liverpool next week. The next game we simply have to talk about is West Ham 3, Southampton 1. And it was a surprise result really, consider West Ham are around the relegation zone. They haven't won since their FA Cup game at Gillingham on the 5th. They haven't won in the league since Bournemouth on New Year's Day. So it was a bit of a surprise to see them getting this really good result at Southampton, who were miles ahead of them, in the pecking order in the Premier League. So let's have a look at how the game went. So Bowen scored after 15 minutes. Jarrod Bowen with his first Premier League goal, first West Ham goal. Obafemi equalised with a pretty deft finish over the keeper. Then Haller scored after knocking the ball away from the goalkeeper Alex McCarthy as he went to catch it with his head. It was a really good leap from Sebastian Haller, and then Antonio went one-on-one with the keeper and slotted it away. Pablo Fornals played pretty well in that game, but my man of the match goes to Sebastian Haller. He hasn't scored since New Year's Day, and now he seems to be okay. So he completed the most dribbles in the match with 4. He was fouled the most times in the match with 3, and he also won the most duels in the match. Do you want to know how many duels he won in that match? 21 duels for Sebastian Haller. Really good performance. A goal, 90 minutes played, 2 chances created, and an 8.6 rating, and a job done for Sebastian Haller, and a job done for West Ham. They now, they're sort of dragging themselves out of that relegation battle at the moment. They're just above the relegation zone, only on goal difference, just like Bournemouth are in the relegation zone on goal difference. West Ham are just out of the relegation zone on goal difference. It's a bit of an odd one, but West Ham, good game, and they'll look to try and push on against Arsenal next week. But Southampton, they're fine. They're safe, I think. They've got 34 points, and that's sort of the predicted target to stay up this season. So you'd think that they'll be okay. And probably the biggest game of the weekend went to Watford 3, Liverpool 0, ending Liverpool's unbeaten run in this division. They didn't lose for 27 games before that. They only had 1 draw, but now they have a big fat L to add to their record. They lost 3-0 to Watford. 2 goals from Ismaila Sarr, who had an outstanding game. So did the entire Watford team, but Liverpool just weren't on it. They couldn't break this Watford side down. But Ismaila Sarr got a goal, assist. Troy Deeney got the other goal and also got an assist. So Ismaila Sarr was my man of the match. 82 minutes played, 2 goals, 1 assist, 6 total shots, 20 accurate passes, 76% pass success, 2 chances created, and it was a great game for Ismaila Sarr. But Liverpool, they had 71% of possession compared to Watford's 29. Didn't make a big chance. Didn't make any big chances. They've created 5 normal chances, but no big chances. It was just a bit of a mad one, really. 14 total shots for Watford, 7 for Liverpool. You'd hope this is just a blip, but in my books, I can't see that being a blip. I think momentum is very important in the Premier League, and if Liverpool are going to win this league by the landslide that they would want to, then they need to shape up. I don't think they're going to lose the league, but it may be a lot closer than people expect. But pretty bad from Liverpool, really. So the next game we're going to talk about here on L15 Weekly Premier League update was Everton and Manchester United. Now that happened as a Sunday game. It's a very interesting, game really. A lot of speculation surrounding Everton and Man United with Bruno Fernandes. Bruno Fernandes had another good game. He got a goal. Dominic Calvert-Lewin opened the scoring, though, in such great form since Ancelotti has taken over this season. He's got 13 goals in the Premier League and 1 assist, so that's really good for Dominic Calvert-Lewin. But really good performance again from Bruno Fernandes, scoring in the 31st minute with a penalty. But the person who really impressed me in this game was Nemanja Matic. Now, he's got an incredible rating when he plays for Manchester United, because Manchester United rarely ever lose when Matic plays. So Matic was player of the match. He created the most chances, 3. He's their holding midfielder, and he created 3 chances. I think that's pretty good. Most tackles in the game with 3, and he hit the woodwork once as well. He got an assist as well for Bruno Fernandes' goal. It was a really good performance from Nemanja Matic. His pass accuracy was 82%. He's obviously being able to keep the ball and keep it nice and tight in the middle with the Scott McTominay and Fred beside him and Bruno Fernandes in front of him. I thought that was a really good formation and a bit of nice change for them. But it was a really good game from Man United. And Everton, they had Carlo Ancelotti sent off after the final whistle. Confused me a bit because Fred earlier on in the game had a massive go at the referee and he got a booking, but the manager does it and gets a straight red. It did confuse me a little bit. But Everton, they'll look to push on from this. They're still eyeing up those sort of Europa League spots with 37 points and Champions League spots. Man United, they're 5th place at the moment, 3 points off Chelsea. I think they should be fine for Europa or Champions League football, but they will be in Europe next season. It's a good game from both teams on both parts. The final Premier League game we have to talk about was Tottenham and Wolverhampton Wanderers. Tottenham were at home. They lost 3-2 to Wolves. Wolves had a great game, but Tottenham, with a lot of defensive errors in that game. You think that Mourinho would come in and make changes that would overall strengthen the the defensive lineup and even the attacking lineup, but at the moment people just aren't seeing it. He was playing Dele Alli as a false number 9 in that game, Mourinho. He just refused to play Troy Parrott. Troy Parrott came on in the 90th minute, but that's a bit late when you're losing the game and you need a striker to come on. But he did play last night at Norwich. Troy Parrott, and I was impressed by him. He played in the FA Cup, which we're going to talk a bit more about later on in this episode. He played really well in the FA Cup. I thought he was great. He came on and really showed a bit of stability in that game. It was very good work from Troy Parrott. But On the other hand, the game for Wolves was really, really good. Doherty, Jota, and Jimenez scoring after they got through their Europa League group. My man of the match goes to Diogo Jota. Diogo Jota, he completed the most dribbles in the match with 4. Was the most accurate passer in the game at 96%. What a great passing accuracy that was. And he did lose the most duels in the match, but it's all about that creative spark, and he gave them a goal and an assist in that game. 4 total shots, 25 accurate passes, 8 duels won. But he was pretty good, Diogo Jota, and that brings us to the end of our Premier League update. Now time for the Championship update here on L15 Weekly. We've got lots of games to cover. It was a full round of fixtures this week. Everybody played on Saturday but Middlesbrough and Nottingham Forest, who played on Monday night. But it was a very interesting game week from lots of teams' perspective. So we'll start off with the first game, which was the early kickoff, which was Leeds United and Fulham. And Leeds absolutely put Hull City to the sword. Leeds were very good in attack. They were so great with their counter-attacking football. My personal highlight of that match was Pablo Hernandez's goal. I thought that was an incredible finish. But goals from Ayling, Hernandez, Roberts again got them the win. Hull City overall pretty poor, The only real standout player for me was George Honeyman in that game, and he played pretty decent. On the left wing, he played pretty well, created some chances, but it wasn't enough to get Hull City the victory. My man of the match was Matthias Klick, who created the most chances in the match with 5. He also lost the possession most times in the match, but that's not really the thing you should look at. He got 2 assists, 2 total shots, 40 accurate passes with 78% pass accuracy, and obviously those 5 chances created were pretty big for Matthias Klick. But Leeds, they don't look to be falling apart again here. They're second in the table, 1 point off West Brom, we'll go on to talk about later on, and 5 points off Fulham, who we will also go on to talk about later. But Leeds United, a very solid performance, and obviously, if you didn't already know, Kiko Casilla has been banned for 8 games and fined a certain amount of money after racially abusing Charlton's and West Brom's Jonathan Lecco. So that's a strange call, really, from the FA, because they haven't really talked about it for quite a while. But they brought in Ilya Mesler, who played in the FA Cup game at Arsenal. That is, to date, his only appearance for Leeds United, and I thought he was pretty decent in that game. He's on loan from Lorient, and I think they should sign him permanently, and I think they should make him their better goalkeeper, because I think Kiko Casilla, he does make plenty of errors. But Ilyan Meslier, a really good debut in the Championship for him, and a really good game for Leeds United. The game we have to move on and talk about we're starting with the 3 o'clock kickoffs now, and that was Blackburn Rovers and Swansea. 2 teams sort of edging towards the playoff areas, really. 2 teams very close to each other in the table. Blackburn in 8th and Swansea in 9th. This ended up in a draw, unsurprisingly, with a 2-2 draw. But it was a reasonable game in terms of Championship football. It was a pretty decent account from Blackburn Rovers, but not as good as recent week. They beat Brentford and whatnot. But Ryan Brewster scored for Swansea along with Andre Ayew with a penalty. Gallagher and Johnson scored for Blackburn. Adam Armstrong didn't really have the game that he was, having at Brentford, but a couple of good performances at the back for Blackburn Rovers with Ryan Nyambe and Tosin Adarabayoyo, who we spoke about earlier. But my personal man of the match went to Brian Brewster. Really good. Most foul player in the match 4 times. He had the least touches of any outfield player to play 90 minutes with a rating of 7.7. He also got that goal to give Swansea an equaliser earlier on in that game. Very even game, and one that's going to probably provide a bit of spark for both teams, because they're still very much in that playoff race. So it'll be interesting to see if either of those teams can get into the playoffs. Game we have to talk about here on L15 Weekly was the Cardiff and Brentford game. Brentford in a bit of a rotten vein of form at the moment. They haven't won since the 8th of February, so that is 5 matches in the league without a win. They drew 2-2 against Cardiff City earlier this week, which was a reasonable performance, but they just didn't have it like they usually do. They had a lot of the ball. Cardiff really did do the job on them under Neil Harris. My personal highlight of the game and my personal best player of the game was Joe Rule, who had an outstanding game with a 7.8 match rating and created the most chances in the game. So that was the game there at Cardiff City Stadium. But Brentford sit fifth, but they are sort of looming with their leaving the playoffs at the moment. Cardiff mid-table, they could mount a playoff push. They're only 5 points away from it, so there could be a chance for Cardiff to push towards it. This game we're going to have to talk about is Huddersfield and Charlton, where Huddersfield, they sort of had some mojo in that game. They look like they're 3 points above the relegation zone now. They won 4-0 against a really good Charlton side who are fighting for their lives down there, but they are still a decent side. Really good performance from Colin Grant, who got 2 goals in that game, but he was just exceptional. Everything he did in that game he was really positive with, and you can only sort of appreciate that when you're a relegation's threatened side. But the mistakes at the back, Jason Pearce and Oshalaj are both making errors, leading to Huddersfield goals. Dylan Phillips, I think he's a really good goalkeeper for Charlton. I heard about it on the Second Tier podcast, which is another podcast that came on the other week. But I just thought that Huddersfield, they just looked incredible the other day, and I think if they can keep that sort of performance up, the Cowley brothers sort of leading them towards the sort of method they want to play, it's really good play from a really good game for Huddersfield Town. We have to move on to my least favourite game of the weekend, which is West Brom 0, Wigan 1. It really wasn't a good game from my perspective. I was there at the game. We just weren't on it. There was no creativity. There was a lack of movement from my team, West Brom. Wigan, they did the job on us. Paul Cook came in and he set up his stall early on that he wasn't going to concede, and he did exactly that. But when you haven't got that sort of spark in your team like you usually have, you're always going to struggle, and I think we really did. I thought it was a poor game from West Brom, but we were pretty good in the cup against Newcastle, even though we lost. I thought we were really good. Personal standout man was Sam Morsey. It wasn't just because he scored the goal. I think the goal was deserved from his perspective, but he came in and he dominated the game. He was pocketing midfielders left, right and centre. Kravinovic couldn't really move under him. Raheem Harper couldn't really get any flair going because Morsey was everywhere, and I think he deserves a big hand for that. Leon Balogun also had a pretty decent game from him. Tom Pearce, I was really impressed, the youngster who came from Leeds in the summer. I was really impressed by him. But it's going to be a struggle for Wigan at the moment down the bottom of the table, but they are 2 points above the relegation zone. West Brom, on the other hand, we are only 1 point above Leeds, but there's still the possibility that things can go wrong. But we just have to hope that things won't go as badly as you'd hope they wouldn't. The final game we're going to talk about here on L15 Weekly is going to be Nottingham Forest and Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough are in a bit of a pickle. We like that phrase here on L15 Weekly, but they are in a bit of a issue at the moment. They are in the relegation zone. They are 1 point away from getting out of it, but they look in trouble. Middlesbrough, let's just have a look at how long they have gone without a win. They haven't won since New Year's Day. And then before that, we're saying they're going to mount a playoff push. Middlesbrough, no, awful form they've been in. But it was a good draw. Grabban only getting a late goal there for Nottingham Forest. Bryce Samba not looking as sharp and as good as he usually is, but it was still a good game for the neutral. But for Middlesbrough, you'd be looking and thinking, are they in a bit of trouble? Let us know down in the comment section below what you think is going to happen to Middlesbrough. Are they going to go down? Are they going to stay up? Do they have too much quality to go down to League One? But Nottingham Forest, can they get into the playoffs? Can they stay up there? Because they are fourth at the moment, but there is a bit of danger of them dropping out. But it'll be interesting to see. It's time for the weekly segment here on L15 Weekly, your personal favourite segment apparently, which is Heroes of the Week. And we've got 5 Heroes of the Week for you, all had outstanding games or game weeks. So where better to start than in the Watford 3 Liverpool 0 game, which was a game that belonged to Ismailia Star, as we've already been through, who played 82 minutes, got 2 goals, an assist, 6 total shots, 20 accurate passes, 76% pass success, 2 chances created. He won 5 duels in that time and got a 9.3 rating. So let's have a look at how his stats have got on throughout the season. So he's played 18 games for Watford, played 1,136 minutes. He scored 5 goals and got 3 assists. He has also got 241 accurate passes with an 81% pass success rate, with 16 key passes. 38% of his shots were on target, with 10 on target. 32 dribbles succeeded, 6 tackles succeeded, 5 clearances and 10 interceptions for Ismaila Sarr, who joined from Rennes earlier on in the transfer window in the summer, which was a really good signing for Watford, and it's proved to be a really key player, Ismaila Sarr, so that's a well-deserved hero week for him. The next hero of the week, we go straight over to France and we go to Ligue 1, and we also go to Montpellier, who had a great game this week, beating Strasbourg 3-0. But, you may look at Teji Savania, who scored twice in that game. You may look at Laborde, who also scored in that game. But we go to the keeper for this one, and we go to Geronimo Rulli, who played in goal in that game. The Argentinian played in that game, and he was outstanding, really. He's on loan from Real Sociedad. He played 90 minutes, made 7 saves, 5 diving saves, 4 saves inside the box, 1 sweep, 6 throws and 2 high claims. A clean sheet. What more could you ask for? He had an 8.9 rating as well. He was second man of the match to Savanier, but we chose to go for him. We like to represent the keepers here. I don't feel they get too much appreciation as it is, but we're giving them appreciation here. This season, he's played 24 games for Montpellier. He's got 8 clean sheets, played 2,160 minutes, 9 saves, 3 penalties faced, and 67% of his penalties he has saved. So that's 2/3 saved, and obviously 8 clean sheets and an average rating of 7.07. So it's a great season so far for Geronimo Rulli and also Montpellier, and a well-deserved hero of the week. For our next hero of the week, we are going down under for the second time since L15 Weekly was produced, and that when we talked about Diego Castro, but we are going down under and we're going to Western United, who beat Central Coast Mariners 6-2 in their latest game, and we just have to talk about the guy who played and got the hat-trick in this game, and that was Max Burgess, who played 90 minutes, got 3 goals, 4 total shots, 49 accurate passes, 85% pass success, 2 chances created, 100% of his shots were on target and all of them went in. He plays left forward for Western United. He was a player of the match with a 9.6 rating, and he won the most duels in the match with 5, which was an incredible tally for him, and a well-deserved hero of the week from the Australian League yet again. For our next hero of the week, we are going to the Austrian League, and we are going to Lask, who, if you weren't aware, are playing Manchester United in their second game of the knockout stages of the Europa League, and they are also top of the Austrian Bundesliga. They are 6 points ahead of Red Bull Salzburg, and the player we are going to focus on from this week is João Klaus. Yep, João Klaus, who scored a hat-trick in their 5-1 victory against Hartberg in the Bundesliga. He played 90 minutes, 3 goals, 5 shots, 21 accurate passes, 55% pass success, 2 chances created, 3 on target. So all 3 of his shots on target resulted in goals. 9 duels won. He's on loan from Hoffenheim, if you didn't already know. He got a rating of 9.7 in that game. So far this season, he's played 17 games, scored 8 goals, got 4 assists. He's played 1,064 minutes. He's got an average rating of 7.15. So he's going to cause Man United a lot of danger by the looks of things. So it's going to be difficult to contain this attack. This attack consisting of Samuel Tete, Dominic Fraser, and João Klaus. So that's going to be a difficult attack to contain for Manchester United. They ought to watch out because they could spring a surprise here, Lask. We have to head back to the French League for our 5th and final hero of the week for this week, and it belongs to Mawassa, who is the right back for Rennes. He had a great game in their 2-0 win against Toulouse. He got a goal in that game, but he also had an outstanding overall game. You may think a goal isn't probably enough to get you into the Heroes of the Week, but the fact that he's been a really consistent performer means I just sort of have to put him in. So 90 minutes played, a goal scored, 2 total shots, 48 accurate passes, and 88% pass accuracy. He also won 4 duels, succeeded in 2 dribbles, was only dispossessed once in that game, and also succeeded a tackle, won an aerial, and got 3 ball recoveries. So Fatou Mawassa, he also hit the woodwork in that game as well, in 2 of his shots. So the other shot went in and 1 hit the woodwork. So it's a really good game from Mawassa. So let's have a look at how he's doing this season, the left back for Rennes. So he's played 22 games. He's got 2 goals, 1 assist. He's played 1,722 minutes. It's 1 goal was from inside the box, 1 goal from outside the box. Both have been with his left foot. He's made 13 key passes, 530 4 passes, a 78% pass accuracy, 5 shots on target, 19 dribbles succeeded, 33 tackles succeeded, 38 clearances and 22 interceptions. So that is Feitu Mwasa's season, another well-deserved Hero of the Week. And that's it for your Heroes of the Week this week. Make sure to comment down below who you think it should be for next week. Also, you can go and plug in the Twitter here, L15weekly. You can comment who you think should be in the next Heroes of the Week. Just let me know who you think should be there. It is time to talk the oldest cup competition in the world, which is the FA Cup here on L15weekly, and we must start with Monday night's game of round 5 of the FA Cup, the last 16 stage, and we start at Fratton Park, which is Portsmouth Stadium, where we saw Portsmouth and Arsenal. It was an interesting lineup given by Michael Arteta, and there were lots of new young faces playing. There was Bukayo Saka, who's obviously been in great form, the most assists for Arsenal this season. Joseph Willett played, Reece Nelson, Edward Nketiah, Gabriel Martinelli, Matteo Guendouzi. Also an interesting signing in Pablo Mari came and played his debut after joining from Flamengo on loan, but he's been in very, very good form in the Brazilian league, so it was interesting to see how he got on his debut, and that was quite well. But they won 2-0 Arsenal. They put this lower league side to the sword. Ryan Williams was impressive for Portsmouth, it has to be mentioned, but Portsmouth obviously with the not as good quality coming and really showing. But my man of the match came and went to Reece Nelson, who created the most chances in the match with 5. He was the most accurate passer to play 45 minutes or more, which was 93%. He got an assist, total shot 1, 28 accurate passes, and obviously those 5 chances created. So it was a good game from Reece Nelson, and Arsenal march on into the next round, and they will play Sheffield United. Let's move on to Tuesday's games now, and we'll start with Reading and Sheffield United, which was one of the few Championship versus Premier League clashes to take place in this 5th round. So Reading lost 2-1 to Sheffield United at the Madejski Stadium, with McGoldrick scoring very early on after 2 minutes for Sheffield United. Puskas scored a penalty for Reading later on in the game, just before half-time, and then Billy Sharp made it 2-1 in extra time after 105 minutes, just before half-time of extra time. And they may have felt they could have got a result in this. Reading, they had some really good chances in that game. They created lots of chances, 8 chances to be precise. Sheffield did create more, but you'd feel that Reading may have converted a couple more than they did actually. Ben Osborne was my personal man of the match. He played very well for Sheffield United. He played the entire game, 120 minutes. He got an assist. He created the most chances in the match with 6 and had the most tackles in the match with 4. 85% pass accuracy and 48 successful passes, an assist and an 8.4 rating. Really good game from Ben Osborne. You know, he's a young lad. He's 25 anyway. But he played left wing back last night. You know, preferred to the usual lineup in the Sheffield United lineup, but he was really good in that game against Reading, and it'll be interesting to see his development, see if he can get a start, because Enda Stevens didn't play in that game, so it'll be interesting to see if he can go and sort of cement that sort of place in the lineup. Enda Stevens injured at the moment, so it'll be, you'd like to see him take over that role, because he did really play well against Reading. Let's talk about the game that I was actually at again. That was West Bromwich Albion and Newcastle United. Newcastle, they dominated the first half. They had quite a lot of possession. They also had the majority of chances, with Miguel Almiron scoring a double in that first half. Valentino Lazaro scoring straight after half-time, after Jonathan Bond spilled that ball straight into his path. But we really gave good account of ourselves, West Brom did. We were really good in the end. I thought a really great performance from Kyle Edwards from the West Brom perspective. I thought Kenneth Sahor came on, really did a job, scored a goal. Fidis Kravinovic looked different, gravy really for West Bromwich Albion. Matt Phillips also scored in that game, but it was an interesting clash, and it's great that almost our B team can match up with Newcastle's strongest side, really. I'd assume that is their strongest side. Yeah, I think it probably is, with quite a few of their players in there. But I feel that we really could have got a result if we maybe played our strongest side, but obviously promotion is the goal at the moment, so you'd hope that we can push forward now and go and get a promotion. Newcastle, really good performance from them, professional in that first half with possession and chances, so it was good to see West Brom getting a nice run out against some of the young players, with Dara O'Shea playing at centre back instead of right back. Kyle Edwards playing again, but it was a bit of an elderly midfield pairing, Gareth Barry and Chris Brunt, but it was a good result for Newcastle, and they'll go on to play Manchester City in the next round of the FA Cup. The final game from Tuesday night we have to talk about is the Chelsea versus Liverpool game, which ended up 2-0 to Chelsea, a very interesting game indeed. And a lot of speculation surrounding this game. Chelsea playing pretty well in this game, but Liverpool, they're on a bit of a downward spiral. We have to admit it's not going well for them. My man of the match in this game, the goals went to Willian and Barkley, but my man of the match was Billy Gilmour, and he is at the ripe age of 18 years old. He's a Scottish player, and he's just been promoted to the senior squad, and he's only recently made his professional Chelsea debut against Hull in the FA Cup. He only came on for a few minutes, but this game, it was his stage really. He played 90 minutes, he got 37 accurate passes, 75% pass success and a chance created, and I just think 6 duels won. He was really pulling strings in that midfield, running rings around Fabinho, who's apparently the best holding midfielder in the Premier League. So what's that make Billy Gilmour? But I feel he should be given a start very soon. Chelsea have got a big game on the weekend against Chelsea, and against Everton, and I think Billy Gilmour should be a part of that squad at least. Liverpool, however, downward spiral. I can't see them losing the league, but they need to book their ideas up if they fancy finishing top of the table by the margin that they'd probably like to. It's time to move on to Wednesday's FA Cup games, and we'll start with Leicester City Birmingham, which was a fairly uneventful game, a game where Leicester were just trying to break down Birmingham. Ricardo Pereira eventually did so after 82 minutes and they won 1-0, but it was a pretty poor game really in respect to both teams, but Leicester were just trying to break them down for most of the game, missing chances here, there and everywhere. Lee Camp making various saves, and Jay Clark-Salter and Harley Dean having to do a hell of a lot of defending. But it was a difficult game for Leicester to play, but they did get the winner, and there's not much more to say than they are through to the next round, and they will play Chelsea in that next round. Another Wednesday night game was Sheffield Wednesday and Manchester City. Another very similar game to Leicester and Birmingham. Another game of Man City just trying to break Sheffield Wednesday down, and they did after 53 minutes. 53 minutes Aguero struck, and that was that. Benjamin Mendy was my man of the match with a rating of 8.5. He also had the most tackles in the match with 2, and he hit the woodwork once as well. He got an assist for that Sergio Aguero goal, a total shot, 68 accurate passes and 90% pass success. That's all you really need to say about this one. But the next game we've got to go on to talk about is Tottenham and Norwich, probably the most exciting one, and the one that I personally watched. But it finished 1-1. After extra time, Vertonghen's opened the scoring with a header from a cross, which was after 13 minutes. Joseph Dermich scored after, equalised after 78 minutes with a strange goal, to say the least. But it was finished on penalties. Tottenham, they just didn't go forward again. They had lots of ball around the Norwich 18 in that extra time period, but they just didn't do anything with it, and it was a bit of a strange one for me, because they had lots of creative players on the pitch. He finally played Troy Parrott. He brought him on after 96 minutes, and Troy Parrott played a total of 24 minutes. Sorry, not 24, 14 minutes on the pitch. He was actually pretty good. I thought he had a good game when he came on. But Norwich scored on penalties. If you haven't seen already, you should go and look. Just type in on Google, Tim Krul water bottle. It says the penalty shootout was one to behold. Tim Krul doing all of the putting off he could on his water bottle. He actually had all the Spurs players that might take penalties written down and where they might go. So, but he was getting in the faces of players. He was bashing the bar, doing dances in the goal line. It was a very strange, game, but Tim Krul came out on top. The penalty hero, you saw him do it in that game against Costa Rica for Holland at the 2014 World Cup, and you saw him do it again, and that means Norwich are through to the next round, and they will play the to-be-decided fixture, and we're very sorry, but we record this podcast on Wednesdays and sometimes Thursdays, but this is a Thursday, and the match is due to start between Derby and Manchester United, but just say we haven't got a match report for that, but we will do that in next week's episode. So that's it for your FA Cup update. Thank you very much for listening to the 8th episode of the L15 Weekly podcast. It's been an absolute blast having you listening to us this week. Thank you to Andy for joining us from the Coventry Telegraph. Please go and check out his work, his Coventry Telegraph website, and also his Twitter handle will be in the description below. It'd be great if you can go and check that out. Thank you very much for everybody listening to this podcast. Make sure to go and check out my Twitter at L15weekly. Instagram is also L15weekly. You can go and check out the website down in the description as well. Thank you very much. Please leave a like. Make sure to subscribe if you'd like to see more of these episodes. We're out every week on a Friday at 5 p.m, so make sure you go and listen to all the previous episodes, and you make sure you listen to them in future. Thank you very much for listening. It's been a pleasure having you here. Thank you and goodbye.